What's up everyone? My name is Marvin and today I'm going to be doing a comparison between a DiMarzio Titan and a Hello Kitty Kittybucker. So it may look like I got the two mixed up, but I actually have the DiMarzio Titan in this Hello Kitty guitar right now. I already did the swap and I'm just storing the Kittybucker here just because I can. And I thought it would be really interesting to showcase the tonal differences between these two pickups. The Kittybucker is a low output pickup. It's an Alnico something, I don't know what, but you can look up the specs. Pretty much the complete opposite of this DiMarzio Titan, which if I remember correctly is ceramic, high output, tight, aggressive, chuggy metal kind of thing, you know. And it's funny because when I bought this guitar, I had full intention to mod it anyway. I knew I wanted to put a pickup in here. Initially wanted to put an EMG 81, but it doesn't fit. So I opted to go for the Titan just because it's a little different than what I normally would get if I get a passive pickup. I personally prefer the DiMarzio Deactivator, especially on a 6-string guitar. It just sounds so good. But I really like the Titan. One of my friends has Titans in a couple of his guitars and they just sound really good. So figured why not. For this comparison, I tried to keep everything on a level playing field. I'm using the exact same strings. I'm using the same pickup height. I actually measured it. And the guitar went through my Joyo Jackman just to, you know, keep things simple. There's not much going on with the EQ, it's just a tone knob. I'm doing 3 types of tone. I'm doing the clean, the overdrive channel, and this overdrive channel being boosted by the Spec-Op Screamin' Overdrive. So this is basically like a Tube Screamer clone. Very standard fare. This is like I think a JCM 800 emulated kind of thing. It sounds similar to a Marshall basically. So very standard fare. The only thing I did have to equalize a little bit is the volume differences between the pickups because like I said, this Kittybucker is a lot lower in output compared to the DiMarzio. And if I keep the pickups at the same height, you will hear the difference dramatically. Musicians tend to have a bias where they think louder is better. So what I did was try to even out the volume as much as I could. I didn't want to go too low or too high with changing the volume because I didn't want to affect any artifacts or detail with each pickup. But I think I got it pretty much balanced where you can really hear the differences. And it's very noticeable. Or is it? I recorded everything through my Tune Notes Torpedo into Logic, and they're using the same cab IR. It's the Eminence DV77. I pretty much use that for everything I record now. It's just simple, works. So I'm gonna play the clips. You'll let me know in the comments what you think about each pickup, and I will give you my final thoughts at the end of the video. So, you know, stay to the end of the video. All right, let's roll the clips. I guess that's rolling. so I hope you enjoyed that. Here are my final thoughts on this pickup swap, Kittybucker, DiMarzio, Titan, la da 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 da. It's kind of a mixed bag. On one end, I really do like the DiMarzio Titan. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. The output level is exactly what I'm familiar with, as all my guitars have high output pickups designed for like rock, metal, la-di-da-di-da. But, and I say this as a very big but, I actually low-key prefer the Kittybucker, and I'll tell you why. So when I first got this guitar and I was playing around with it, the Kittybucker was just a little off. Like it wasn't what I was expecting Fender to put into this guitar. In my mind, I was thinking that they knew their target audience for this guitar was gonna be a bunch of metalheads that wanna mod it and play around with it and stuff, because that's where the other one blew up in popularity anyway. This pickup wasn't like a high output pickup. It was like the exact opposite. And when I first played it, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. But as I kept playing it, it grew on me so much. There's a weird detail in this pickup that I'm sure you can hear in the videos, and it's like this, I describe it as like a squawky kind of sound. Even in my review video, which if you haven't seen that, check that out. But I describe that sound like that. The high end is rolled off and the low end is kind of like, the pickup is like tapered around this very specific sound, and I actually really like how it sounds, especially when you're playing it clean. Dynamics wise, they're about the same, although I'll say the DiMarzio is probably a little more dynamic, but that's not really a bad thing. It could also be that the DiMarzio is also louder. I don't know if I had this pickup in this guitar, if I raised it, maybe that would change the dynamics. Well, not maybe, it would change the dynamics. But I think you get what I'm saying. It's also a little bit unfair to compare them because they're completely different pickups. But if you take all this information and think of it in a musical perspective, where you're really just focused on the sound, contrary to what a lot of people were saying online, this is not a bad sounding pickup. Is it the highest quality pickup? No, it probably isn't. That doesn't mean it sounds bad though. And I think for what this is and how it came in this guitar, it's pretty good overall. Like I have no intention to get rid of this or sell it or anything. I actually really do like it. And this is in no way to put down the DiMarzio. The main thing that I realized after putting this in is that there's too much familiarity for me with this DiMarzio. I would say it's my fault because I bought a pickup that pretty much has what I'm looking for in pretty much all my other guitars. So like for 6-string guitars, I have the Tosin Abasi Fishman, I have the Fishman Modern, I have the Seymour Duncan Mick Thompson Blackouts. All excellent pickups, all active or whatever, but like I said before, I had the DiMarzio Deactivator, which is one of my most favorite passive pickups. I really like the Seymour Duncan JB, and they're all slightly different and maybe a little bit of the EQs and stuff, but they're all fairly high output pickups that are really good for rock and metal. And that's the thing, I play rock and metal. This pickup is no exception. It sounds great, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. But I think because it sounds similar to all my guitars, it's not as exciting. It didn't give me the excitement that I was expecting to get playing that sound on this Strat, you know, because I was very excited to get this guitar and to use it as like a metal machine. And this is where it gets kind of weird to say which one was better. If I'm using it for rock and metal, this is obviously the better choice, because this overdriven is a little more flubby, it's not as tight. It's not as bad as you think, but I was also only playing in drop D and standard on the strings that came with the guitar. If I tune this down to drop B, like I'm planning to do anyway, I don't think this is gonna be able to hang the way that this is going to be able to hang. And that was the main reason that I swapped it out. But overall, it's just a weird, it sits in a weird space where it's like, it kind of reinforces something that I've said before. Oh, I don't remember what video, but I was talking about pickups. I've always been a believer that there's no need to modify your pickups unless you're changing the actual pickup type, because that's gonna make the biggest difference in sound. Even in that, you know, going from like a low output Alnico to a high output ceramic, it's a difference, but I don't think it's that big of a difference where it's like, dang, I have to go out and get it. Unless you need it for something very specific. Like I said, I'm using this for literal, like drop B and C sharp standard are gonna be the highest tuning I use. Probably gonna bring this down to drop A, drop G, whatever I can get away with on this guitar. That pickup could still technically be used for that. I don't know, it's just hard to say because it's like people online, if you look at forums and reviews and everything, they're always gonna gravitate towards something that just has to be better, and there's no room for error or change. It's like, no, you want to play modern metal, you need to get a DiMarzio Titan or whatever, Alpha Omega, insert whatever pickup here. And by doing this, I really realized that it's, yes, obviously the pickups make a difference, but not as big of a difference as you think. And even if they do make said difference, you may not be happy with the results. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy with the results from this DiMarzio Titan as a humbucker that does what I need it to do. But sonically, it doesn't fulfill me as much as this Kittybucker. That's what I'm trying to explain, if that makes sense. I guess choose wisely, and I would say consider maybe not upgrading your pickup and maybe trying to work with it and see if you can get it to do what you need it to do without shelling out any extra money. The DiMarzio Titan wasn't expensive. It was around 100 and change. Well, I guess you could say it's expensive. $100 is a lot of money. In the vein of pickups where they can easily go for like $200, $300, you know, I think it's a fair price compared to the competition. But it's a price that you may not have to pay if you are willing to think outside the box and get whatever problematic pickup you have to work with whatever project you have. I think there's a way that you can make it work. People have been doing it for years with very limited selections of pickups and stuff, and technology and gear and all of that. This video probably didn't go the way you were expecting. The mod definitely didn't go the way that I was expecting, but this is what's good about doing stuff like this, because you get to learn not only just about sound and stuff, but if things are really worth the effort and the money and the time and just knowing where your focus should be. Should you really worry about all these little mods, or should you just play your guitar and just enjoy the guitar? I hope all of that makes sense, because I'm kind of rambling, just trying to explain my thoughts. But nonetheless, that's the conclusion I came to. I'm still keeping this DiMarzio Titan in here. I'm going to test it out when I change the strings and tune it down to drop B, set it up and everything. And who knows, maybe I'll put this Kittybucker back in the guitar and do another test to see how it handles low tunings. Who knows? That's a lot of work though, so I don't know if I'm gonna do it. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like. Leave comments down below on what you think about the sound, what you think about what I said, and just any thoughts that you have overall. And if you enjoy this content, feel free to subscribe. That would just be awesome. You all take care, stay safe, and have a great day.